Founded in 2013, Swedish studio Toadman Interactive have worked and consulted on various titles over the years, including Warhammer Vermintide and the currently missing in action Dead Island 2. Immortal Unchained marks the team's first stab at their own original IP, a Souls-like action RPG set in a sci-fi universe with a focus on ranged combat. Whilst the concept sounds interesting, unfortunately the execution leaves a lot to be desired. Immortal Unchained isn't a terrible game, but it's not a great one either. The cosmos is collapsing and it's your job to try and save it. No pressure then. Upon starting the game, you're able to select from 6 different disciples, the game's form of classes. Disappointingly, despite the fact that each class in game offers a somewhat varied playstyle approaches, the visual designs and summary explanations do little to help explain the differences to brand new players. I highly recommend giving those which interest you a short playtest before deciding on your class. Players are then able to customise their characters from a range of skin colours, hairstyles, male and female choices, tattoo designs, etc. The customisation here is fairly basic. Whether you choose male or female, your character's pretty much guaranteed to look like they just injected a highly potent form of pure aggression straight into their veins. Immortal heavily focuses on ranged combat to stand out from the crowd. The game controls similarly to a basic third-person shooter, with aim down sights, rolling to dodge attacks and a single basic melee attack button. Clicking in the right analog stick, however, allows you to lock onto an enemy, making accurate shots a lot more easier. However, when aiming down the sights, you do have finer control over hitting an enemy's weak spots. The majority of combat encounters involve strafing around an enemy, dodging their attacks and attempting to hit them in the back for larger damage. This includes many of the game's boss encounters too. Holding the power attack button allows you to charge a stronger attack which costs energy. These attacks are different depending on the weapon you're using, such as stronger burst shots or a frost blast from your pistol that helps stun enemies temporarily. There's certainly fun to be had with the combat. When everything comes together, it can feel satisfying. Timing that perfect roll before unloading into an enemy's weak spot does feel good. Unfortunately though, there's just too many frustrating design decisions that often get in the way. Fast travel, for example, takes far too long to unlock, resulting in the player being forced to backtrack through an entire level once completed. Also, melee combat just feels imprecise and slow, with only a single button prompt to swing your weapons. I certainly wouldn't recommend attempting an all melee playthrough, it's absolutely not Immortal's strong point. In typical Souls-like fashion, even with plenty of points dumped into your health, your character is able to die in the blink of an eye. Enemies can dish out heavy damage before you know it. Despite your low health, these enemies often just end up being straight up bullet sponges. Combat pretty much just devolves into avoiding enemy attacks whilst chipping away at them with bullets. There's also far too many ways to get stun-locked in epically frustrating fashion. Bosses and even basic enemies are often able to stun you in such a way that there's nothing you can do but watch as you get hit once again, often resulting in death. And die you will, over and over and over and over again. Immortal Unchained is a tough game, with no difficulty options to adjust the experience to your tastes. Unfortunately, this difficulty often comes in the form of an unfair feeling experience though. Ranged enemies can often attack you with no limit to their range, but the player character's bullets seem to do 0 damage whatsoever after a certain distance, even when they're visibly striking the enemy. Mechanically, Immortal borrows a lot from Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Rather than camps, you have obelisks for save points. Reaching one of these will save the game, restore all your health and basic items, but reset all of the enemy spawns. Killing enemies provides your characters with bits, like souls, which are used as the game's upgrade currency. Upon death, you'll drop any bits but keep all of your found items. Reaching the location you perished allows you to collect any lost bits, but die on the way and those bits are gone for good. Followers of the genre know what to expect here. Obelisks also allow the player to spend those bits on upgrading your character and gear. The player has complete freedom on which stats to upgrade, allowing you to create the kind of build you're interested in. I tested multiple classes and builds and found the playstyles of which to be surprisingly different, something which I certainly appreciate. Whilst a strength-based build might offer strong melee hits and options for heavier weaponry such as shotguns, the reload speeds might be frustratingly slow with lower energy levels to prevent the player from dishing out too many power attacks. However, a carbine wielding tracker might have a pathetic melee damage, but speedy reload times combined with a high energy pool. These build changes genuinely do change the way that you have to play each character, forcing you to adapt to their strengths and weaknesses. Items are also consumed much like in Dark Souls. You can add items to a hotbar which can be scrolled through and then hit a single button to consume the selected item. 3 health injections can be carried at a time and are slow to consume, so timing their use is absolutely essential. Did someone say Estus flasks? Energy packs can give a small boost to your energy pool if you're struggling in between obelisk save points, and ammo packs help with the scarcity of ammo throughout the game. Hobbling along with your health and energy depleted, only to come across the saving grace of a save point certainly does have its moments, much like in other Souls-likes. Disappointingly though, the level design isn't something which borrows from the best of that genre. Immortal's levels are just lackluster to say the least. Whilst the environments and locales do improve aesthetically later in the game, the areas of the levels themselves almost merge into one. The game's zones simply lack distinctive points of interest, allowing the player to get lost fairly easily. I also found weapon drops to be incredibly unbalanced currently. Throughout my main playthrough I saw plenty of strength focused weapons, something which my character wasn't proficient in. In fact, 5 hours in and I was still using the same basic rifle and pistol combo despite collecting 10 plus weapons. Those weapons which were build appropriate often had crazy stat requirements which took hours to work towards equipping. There seems to be a strong bias towards strength builds in the game right now, something worth bearing in mind. The game just feels unpolished in almost every regard. The game's interface, for example, is as basic as it comes. Tooltip prompts are just plain text strings that pop up. Loot tables feel unbalanced and the combat scenarios are often far too frustrating. Despite some solid voice acting work, the game's story is mostly dismissible too, and the background music is also appropriate but largely forgettable.
Are you? Be careful. Delve too deeply into the darkness and you will become a part of it for the rest of your days and beyond.
Finally, the game's visuals both technically and artistically do little to stand out from the crowd. Immortal Unchained is an obviously lower budget action RPG than From Software's Dark Souls, and that's absolutely fine. The game, however, is priced by many retailers at $39.99 here in the UK, which is the same price as many major blockbuster titles, and therefore it has to be compared with the likes. It's not a bad game. There are things to like here. It's just not a particularly good one either. The Souls-like formula is tried and tested, it works. The combat has plenty of satisfying moments, but it also has even more frustrating ones. Immortal Unchained just feels like there's something there buried underneath the numerous questionable design decisions and lack of polish throughout. Whilst the game certainly isn't a great one of those, it's also not a terrible one either. Hardcore fans of the genre will likely still find things to like here. For everyone else though, there are numerous other titles on the market which simply just do this style of game better. Be sure to like, share and subscribe for more content like this.